the #1 nutrition mistake you're still making and how to fix it. Welcome to our channel. It's my mission to empower you to live your healthiest, happiest life naturally. And today, we're talking about the #1 nutrition mistake that you are still making. Let's fix it. Now, what is the #1 nutrition mistake? It is eating the wrong foods for you based on your unique biochemistry, your microbiome, your genetics. We all know that one size does not fit all when it comes to food. What do I mean by that? Well, let's look at some of the popular diets out there. You've got paleo, you've got keto, you've got vegan, you've got whole foods, you've got raw foods, you've got paleo autoimmune, you've got keto autoimmune. So many different diets to choose from. Which one is right for you? Well, the answer is none, or maybe they all right for you, depending on where you are in your journey with your health. Now, why is that? Why is it that one size does not fit all when it comes to food? Well, there's 3 big reasons, and I talk about this in my book, The Whole Pantry Prescription. First reason is your personal biochemistry. So, we all have different body chemistries. And what I mean by that is we have different bodies that run at different set points. For example, if you were to take 2 people and put them on the same diet, right? Say you put them on a low-carb diet. One person might actually be able to tolerate that better because their pancreas produces just enough insulin to keep them in the set point that they need to be in. But the other person might actually require more carbohydrates in order for their pancreas to produce enough insulin to keep them at their set point. And so, their hunger and their satiety hormones would actually be more satisfied. I mean, they wouldn't feel hungry on the higher carb diet. They would feel hungry on the lower carb diet because their set point requires more fuel. This is a very simplified explanation of something that's very complex. But basically, we all have different set points and we all have different biochemistry. And so, when it comes to food, it really depends on where you are on the spectrum. The second reason why one size does not fit all is because we all have different microbiomes. Now, what is a microbiome? Well, a microbiome is all of the bacteria in our bodies. In fact, we have more bacterial cells than we have human cells in our bodies. So, they make up about 10% of our body weight. And yes, you do have bacteria in your gut, but you also have bacteria in your mouth. You have them on your skin. You have them in your lungs. You have them in your sinus cavities. You have them in your urinary tract. But most importantly, you have them in your gut. And those gut bacteria, there are trillions of them, absolutely trillions, and they eat food. And then they produce things called metabolites. Those metabolites can either be good or bad for us. Let's say, for example, you decided to go on a healthy ketogenic diet, which includes lots of healthy fats like omega-3 fatty acids. Well, guess what? Your microbes feed on those healthy fats, and they produce metabolites that are pro-inflammatory. They actually promote inflammation. That might be great if you have an infection, or maybe you have an autoimmune disease and you're trying to get rid of pathogens. But if you're trying to heal your gut lining, well, that might not be the best thing for you. Maybe you need to eat more fiber, more carbs in order for your microbiome to produce the metabolites that you need in order for you to thrive. So, again, you see how one size does not fit all. And the third reason is because we all have different genetics. We all have different genetic variants that influence how we process food, influence how we digest food, and even influence how we perceive flavor. You know, some people don't like spicy food. Some people can tolerate a lot of spicy food. Some people don't like bitter foods like broccoli or Brussels sprouts. Some people don't mind it. And again, that goes back to our genetics. So now that you understand why one size does not fit all when it comes to food, what is the solution? Well, The solution is to learn about your personal biochemistry, your microbiome, and your genetics. And based on that data, experiment in the kitchen. And I know that probably sounds kind of overwhelming. Like, how do I do that? Well, it's actually very simple. First of all, when you come to my website, we have the DNA test, which reveals a lot of interesting information about how you process food, your ability to digest certain fibers, your ability to digest certain proteins, and even how you perceive flavors. And so, the DNA test is a really great place to start. You also want to pay attention to how you feel after you eat certain foods. Do you feel sluggish? Are you gaining weight? Is your cortisol going up? Or maybe you're losing too much weight. Maybe your periods are too heavy. So pay attention to your menstrual cycle and how that influences your hunger and satiety hormones. Maybe you have brain fog. Maybe you have joint pain. All of these symptoms can give you clues as to whether or not you're re-eating the right amount of fuel for you. And then finally, you want to pay attention to your labs. What does your hemoglobin A1C look like? What does your fasting insulin look like? If you have access to those, what does your vitamin D look like? How about your homocysteine? How about your thyroid levels? So, all of these are great ways to determine if you're eating the right foods for you. And in addition to that, you also want to consider taking an elimination diet approach to food. What that means is that you pick a food that you suspect might be causing you problems. For example, you might want to cut out gluten for 30 days and see how you feel after 30 days. Then you add it back in and see how you feel without it. You can do that with dairy. You can do that with eggs. You can do that with peanuts and tree nuts. And by doing that, you can really isolate which foods are working for you and which ones aren't. In addition to that, you can also consider adding foods that you suspect might be missing from your diet. For example, maybe you're feeling tired and sluggish all the time, and you add in some healthy fats, and you notice that you no longer feel that way. Or maybe you're constipated, and you add in some fiber, and magically, you're no longer constipated. So, by adding in and eliminating foods, you can start to figure out what works for you. Now, I'm not against healthy diets per se. I think that they're great starting points. And sometimes people need help figuring out what foods are right for them. And so, a healthy ketogenic diet is great. Healthy vegan diet is fantastic. Healthy paleo diet is awesome. But use them as a template. Use them as a starting point. And over time, start experimenting in the kitchen and figure out what truly feels best for you. Because when you eat the right foods for you, you'll feel amazing. You'll have zero inflammation. You'll have perfect digestion. You will sleep like a baby. You will think clearly. You will be the best version of yourself. Okay, so that was a lot. Let's do a quick review. One nutrition mistake that you're still making is eating the wrong foods for you. Why is that? Well, it's because we all have different biochemistry. We all have different microbiomes, and we all have different genetics. So, what is the solution? The solution is to learn about your personal biochemistry, your microbiome, and your genetics, and then experiment in the kitchen. Pay attention to how you feel after you eat certain foods. Pay attention to your cycle. Pay attention to your labs and take an elimination diet approach to food. If you found this helpful, please share it with your friends and family. Also, I am here almost every single week. So, if you like this video, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of my videos. And I will see you in my next video. Bye for now. In today's video, I'm going to tell you what 99% of people get wrong about eating healthy. And it's one of the biggest problems when it comes to nutrition. Now, I've been talking about healthy diet and nutrition for decades now, and I've helped millions of people all over the world with their health and their weight loss. And what I've learned is that there are some key principles that we need to follow when we talking about nutrition. But unfortunately, 99% of people don't understand these principles. So I'm going to share with you what they are and how you can use them to improve your health and your quality of life. The first thing that most people don't understand is that food is not the enemy. It's not something to be feared or avoided. It's something to be enjoyed. You have to understand that food is your friend. It's there to help you. It's there to nourish you. And if you approach food with a negative attitude, you're going to create a negative relationship with food. And that's not going to help you lose weight. That's not going to help you improve your health. So the first principle that 99% of people do want to understand is that food is not the enemy. The second principle is that restriction doesn't work. When we try to restrict certain foods or certain nutrients, what we're really doing is creating a deficiency. And when we create a deficiency, the body is going to suffer. It's going to weaken the immune system. It's going to make us more susceptible to disease. And it's also going to cause us to overeat in other areas. So instead of focusing on restriction, we need to focus on adding more healthy foods into our diet. When we add more healthy foods into our diet, we're going to crowd out the unhealthy foods. We're going to make those unhealthy foods less appealing. And that's going to help us naturally reduce the amount of unhealthy food that we eat. So again, the second principle that 99% of people don't understand is that restriction doesn't work. Instead of restricting certain foods, we need to focus on adding more healthy foods into our diet. The third principle that 99% of people do want to understand is that processed food is the real enemy. It's not fat, it's not carbs, it's not calories. It's the processed food. And unfortunately, 80% of the food in the grocery store is highly processed food. So it makes it very difficult for the average person to avoid processed food. But the key is to focus on eating whole, unprocessed foods as much as possible. When we eat whole, unprocessed foods, we're going to get the full spectrum of nutrients that nature intended for us to get. And that's going to help us achieve optimal health. So the third principle that 99% of people do want to understand is that processed food is the real enemy. Not fat, not carbs, not calories. Now the fourth principle that 99% of people don't understand is that eating frequency is critical. How often we eat during the day is just as important as what we eat. And unfortunately, most people are eating way too frequently. They snacking all day long, and that's causing their blood sugar to be elevated all day long. And that's not good for the body. It weakens the immune system. It causes inflammation. And it also causes us to gain weight. The key is to focus on eating mindfully and only eating when we hungry and stopping when we full. When we do that, we allow our body to digest the food and absorb the nutrients. And that's going to help us lose weight and improve our health. So the fourth principle that 99% of people don't understand is that eating frequency is critical. We need to focus on eating mindfully and only eating when we hungry and stopping when we full. The fifth principle that 99% of people do understand is that stress management is crucial when it comes to eating healthy. When we're stressed, our body produces more cortisol, and that can lead to cravings for unhealthy comfort foods. So it's important to find healthy ways to manage stress, such as exercise, meditation, or spending time in nature. When we do that, we're going to be better able to control our eating habits and make healthier choices. The fifth principle that 99% of people do understand is that stress management is crucial when it comes to eating healthy. we need to find healthy ways to manage stress, such as exercise, meditation, or spending time in nature. The sixth principle that 99% of people do understand is that gut health is essential for optimal nutrition. When we have a healthy gut, we're going to be able to digest the food properly and absorb the nutrients. But unfortunately, most people have a compromised gut, and that's preventing them from getting the nutrients that they need. So it's important to focus on healing the gut by eating fermented foods, by taking probiotics, or by eliminating processed foods and gluten. When we do that, we are going to be able to absorb the nutrients that we need to fuel our body and to improve our health. So the sixth principle that 99% of people do understand is that gut health is essential for optimal nutrition. The seventh principle that 99% of people do understand is that variety is important when it comes to eating healthy. We need to make sure that we're getting a wide variety of nutrients because each nutrient has a different function in the body. So it's important to focus on eating a rainbow of fruits and vegetables, and that way we are going to get the full spectrum of nutrients that nature intended for us to get. We also need to make sure that we're getting enough protein and healthy fats into our diet, and that's going to help us feel full and satisfied. It's also going to help us maintain a healthy weight and improve our overall health. So, the seventh principle that 99% of people do understand is that variety is important when it comes to eating healthy. We need to make sure that we're getting a wide variety of nutrients. The eighth principle that 99% of people do understand is that hydration is crucial for healthy eating. When we're dehydrated, our body is going to send us signals that can be mistaken for hunger. So it's important to drink plenty of water throughout the day. And that's going to help us stay hydrated and prevent us from mistaking thirst for hunger. It's also important to limit our intake of sugary drinks, because those can cause blood sugar spikes and contribute to weight gain and inflammation. So again, the eighth principle that 99% of people do understand is that hydration is crucial for healthy eating. The ninth principle that 99% of people do understand is that sleep is an important factor. When it comes to eating healthy, when we don't get enough sleep, our body is going to produce more of the stress hormone cortisol, and that can lead to cravings for unhealthy comfort foods. So it's important to prioritize sleep and get at least 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep per night. When we do that, we're going to be better able to control our eating habits and make healthier choices. Sleep is an important factor when it comes to eating healthy. The 10th principle that 99% of people do understand is that cooking at home is essential for healthy eating. When we cook at home, we're in control of the ingredients that we use. We're able to avoid processed foods and added sugars and unhealthy fats, and that's going to help us improve our overall health. When we cook at home, we are also able to make larger batches of food, and that way we have leftovers for the next day. And that's going to help us avoid the temptation to order takeout or to eat out, which can be high in calories, sodium, and unhealthy fats. So the 10th principle that 99% of people do understand is that cooking at home is essential for healthy eating. I hope you've enjoyed these 10 principles that 99% of people do understand about healthy eating. If you have, please give me a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments below which principle was the most helpful for you. And if you haven't already, please subscribe so you can get my latest videos. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.